Okay, we got a thumbs up and I'll start recording on my end. I'm going to record this one to the cloud.
Recording in progress.
Okay, welcome everybody to the April edition of the Tips and Tricks SIG. I will open up the floor with open forum and then go into our questions that I'd sent out to the group or topics that I sent out to the group in the previous email. Who'd like to open up the floor with the first question of the evening?
Well, I have some questions.
Yes, sir, Mr. Tom.
Okay, I don't know exactly what tips and tricks we'll be covering tonight. I'll stay all night, but my question will be, I'm trying to use Malware Bytes on a machine that I've just installed it on, and I'll be damned when I want to install Advanced System Care. It's getting strangled by Malware Bytes. I can't load it. I can't get it in.
It's got to be telling you something.
Malware Bytes says it won't take it. It's saying it's some kind of bad software.
Oh,
Yeah.
well, I would do two things. Number one, I would exit from Malware Bytes before you do the install. And then when you run it, Malware Bytes is going to catch it, but they're going to pop up a box and ask you for permission or give you an opportunity to give you permission and add it. You need to add the program itself. Because I subscribe to Malware Bytes and at premium. You need to put the application in a safe apps list. And then after that, Malware Bytes will ignore it.
Okay. I have gone through the list of, what can I say, every place that Malware Bytes comes up saying it's all of its different files that it's putting on, what would you call it, that it's freezing and saying to ignore them. And, you know, it doesn't ignore them. Each time I try to load it, it throws them back into a lock status of some type. So are you saying that I should
in the software, I don't have that computer in front of me right now. I'm not on it. But inside the program, there's a way of navigating, going to a page inside a tab inside the app, where you can navigate to the file folder where the application's exe is, and whitelist it.
One problem with Advanced System Care and similar programs is they have a lot of EXEs. They're not just one EXE.
Also, you have a lot of DLLs that are considered pups.
Would it be best if Tom pulls up Malware Bytes and shows it and walks us through what he's trying to do?
Well, it's not on this system. It's on a different one. This system works fine.
Oh. Okay.
Yeah, so we're 0 for 2.
We're 0 for 2. We can't help you if you can't really see it.
Yeah, that's where I'm stuck. You know, if I could show you on this.
So the problem is Advanced System Care that he has loaded on his machine is blocking the installation of Malware Bytes.
No, reverse.
No, yeah.
Malware Bytes is blocking Advanced System Care.
It's blocking the loading of Advanced System Care.
Loading, you mean installing?
No, that's the running of the system care that is being blocked.
Okay.
In other words, Advanced System Care was already there.
It was already here, and when I tried to upgrade it to a newer version, it automatically removes its old version and tries to put the new version in. So it wipes itself out, puts the new version in, and then Malware Bytes chokes it. Says I can't do it.
Yeah, that's because those are new files.
Exactly. So it's like what I'm doing is putting in a new program, basically.
I've never run across this
Right.
problem, and I run both.
All right. I just asked Copilot how to find out where in the app the whitelist is. So if you open the Malware Bytes menu, and you access the settings option, which is the gear in the top right corner, you navigate to the allow list in the settings menu, select the allow list tab, and then add an exclusion. Click the add button, and then go to the file or folder. So you can exclude the entire app folder if you want.
Yeah, if you take the entire folder that says something about advanced system care, go to that level and exclude that entire folder, no matter what gets upgraded, it'll probably be within that folder. And it'll be allowed. And then if you ever want to have some real fun, just scan that folder.
Okay, well, I'm in that location and it's showing me the C drive, and I can go down the C drive trying to find something. I'll go to programs files, so I guess I'll go to the x86 because I believe that's where it's at.
Could be programs,
Um,
could be programs x86.
Yeah,
I would check program files first because I think Malwarebytes would go there.
It's a question of where advanced system care lives.
yeah.
And it may be an x86.
Oh, right. I've never loaded Advanced System Care. I don't know anything about it.
Same here. Anyone else here use advanced system care?
Okay,
All right,
IO
so Tim, can you look and see where it might reside on your machine?
in program files, x86 is where IOBits is. Within IOBits is advanced system care.
Right.
Okay, there you go.
Are there other IOBits programs you want Malwarebytes to scan?
I'm sorry, I didn't understand the question.
Are there other programs in that IOBit folder that you want Malwarebytes to be scanning? I think the answer is no.
No, I could say IOBits and let it look at all of it, and let it take any of those. So I could, yeah, IOBits.
Take that folder, put it in the Malwarebytes exclusion list, and it won't scan that.
Okay, select a folder, file folder, all right.
Yeah, that folder is selected, and then it should be on the allow list. Now, I don't know what that will do to an installer.
Okay, so.
Yeah, that's why I suggested shutting down Malwarebytes so that it doesn't interfere with the installation of the software, and then go in and exclude the program folder.
Yeah, in other words, in order to do an install or an upgrade to do that operation, you may have to go to your tray and quit Malwarebytes while you're doing that install.
Yes,
And then start up Malwarebytes again.
yes.
I wouldn't know how to do that.
Well, it's down in the tray.
Yeah, in the system tray is a Malwarebytes icon, and just right-click on it.
Look for the
All
up
right.
arrow.
Let me get out of this.
Look for the up arrow, up caret, and then Malwarebytes looks like that M, like a Batman M
Yep.
in blue.
I bet.
And
I
you just,
know what, I'm getting to it, yeah.
and then you
Right-click.
right click and hit quit Malwarebytes. It's the last option. You see it?
When I right click on the,
Icon.
On the icon down there, it shows two choices, Malware Bytes and the unpinned from the taskbar.
Okay, you hold your mouse over, hold your hold
Yeah,
your
he's in the
mouse
wrong
over
spot.
the blue icon that looks like a Batman symbol.
Yeah.
Then right click on it.
Right click and hold.
Just right click and you
Yeah.
release the right click and it'll come up with a dialog box.
I think maybe he's on the taskbar.
I am on
And
the taskbar.
you don't want to be on the taskbar. Exit from where you are. In the lower right-hand corner of the taskbar is a little up arrow
Okay, yeah,
or,
we're not in the
or a
right spot.
carrot.
Okay, yes, I'm not there now. Okay, I see what you're talking about now.
That
Okay,
little
and that's where the quit is at. Okay,
Correct. Now
that
quit
grouping
it.
is all your running programs that are in the background.
yes. Okay, so I can see where I'll quit that if I have to.
Yeah, that's just so that the upgrade can happen.
All right.
Now try doing the install. All right, so while he's doing that, should we go on to our next question? Yes, Harry.
Just very quick, I replaced the computer that I'm using right now about 2.5 years ago. Prior to that, for a lot of years, I used the Firewall that was a third party. It wasn't Microsoft, wasn't part of Windows. But when I got this one with Windows 10, I just left the default Firewall from Microsoft. What are people feeling? Is that a good idea, bad idea?
I use the Windows Firewall on 5 PCs. I used to install a third-party firewall years and years ago when Windows was back in Windows before Windows 7, whatever the version was. And it was I forget what the name of the firewall was, but it was before Microsoft had a firewall. And now that they have one, they block everything. In other words, like if you have a new app that's trying to talk on port 3333, Microsoft should pop up a box and say, "What do you want to do?" And you can allow it to run.
Was it
And that will
Zonealarm?
Zonealarm, yes.
Yes.
That is the one I used to, right?
Zonealarm belonged to a class of firewall apps called HIPS firewalls, HIPS. HIPS is now kind of obsolete. There are protections built into Windows 10 and Windows 11 that kind of obsolete the HIPS protections. Especially, there are firewall protections. The Windows 10, Windows 11 firewall is definitely far advanced from Vista, XP, and even Windows 7.
All right.
Most people say these days you don't really need a third-party firewall unless you're in a really exposed environment.
Okay. Thank you to all. Appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
I miss Zonealarm. That was a fun product.
Yeah, it gave a lot of interesting and weird pop-ups.
Yeah, but it did give you you felt like you got good control.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because I had in my office a guy who opened up one of those happy birthday cards that infects your computer.
Right.
And what it did was it was installed a little app that was sending out emails. And Comcast was the service for the business. They blocked the mail because there was too many outbound mail messages coming from this machine.
Mm-hmm.
And I couldn't figure out at that point how to clean the machine, but I knew about Zonealarm. So I put Zonealarm in and I blocked the port that it was using to send out the spam mail until I could get rid of the virus.
Yeah.
Interesting. Good question, Harry. How do we get to our firewall that's in Windows?
Just
Under,
click on the start menu and type in the word firewall.
Yeah, that'll get you there.
Okay, so let's take a look at that. Firewall.
Firewall and network protection under system settings.
Mm-hmm.
And it wants you to be administrator, but it doesn't matter when we're just looking. And it'll just tell you the firewall is on for various networks.
Yeah.
And it allows
And
you
then-
you can allow an app through the firewall. You can
Right.
do, Sanford, is that Windows 10 or Windows 11?
11.
Okay, so you're at a different place. You're in Windows Defender Firewall.
Alls I
And that's,
just typed in firewall and this is what came up.
yeah. There is also a firewall app in Windows 11, which shows fewer options than that.
Okay.
But
Uh,
you can then go to advanced settings, and that gives you the administrator
I don't
password.
you said there's a different app for firewall?
Yeah, firewall, network and firewall.
I'm in settings right now, and I went into the privacy and security tab, and I'm looking for something that says firewall, but there's nothing in here.
All right.
Okay, I am now where Sanford was, and it is, you go to the Windows security, and it says firewall and network protection. And
got that.
then that gives you some general things. And then there's an advanced settings tab, which takes you to where Sanford has been.
Okay.
I just clicked on the button that you said to, and it popped up a new box that says firewall and network protection.
Exactly. And then from that box, if you scroll down below public network, you have several things, allow an app, etc. And you can also do advanced settings, which is where Sanford is.
Yeah, there's an app and browser control tab.
Yep.
So this is the advanced settings, is this one.
Yeah, but it
I'm
allows you to
assuming-
do advanced things.
If I may, I'm assuming you guys are seeing
Yeah.
the box that says Windows Defender Firewall with advanced security.
Hmm.
Yes.
Okay.
And the Defender firewall, I think, I'm not seeing in this private network, public network area a way to allow applications or ports. I think the Windows Defender firewall has replaced whatever's going on here in Windows security.
Actually, there is a link that says allow an app through the firewall. Allow apps to communicate through Windows Defender Firewall is what pops up.
Windows Defender firewall, yeah. In Windows 11, I think that in Windows 10, the firewall is part of the system.
Hmm.
It's in the control panel.
Yeah,
In Windows 11, it's part of Windows Defender.
I believe so.
yeah, it's in the Windows security section.
Yeah. Anyway, we were saying,
So this screen that I have up here, I have this place that says I clicked on outbound rules.
Right.
Would this be where I would block something?
Yes.
Yes,
Or,
yes. Okay.
inbound too. Or you can do a combination inbound outbound rule.
Yeah, I just open it for both because if you're talking to their server, they need to send you information, you need to send them information. But yeah, this is where you want to be.
so this is where you set up a rule.
Skype. Why the hell is Skype
most
still
of the
in here?
time you don't get into this to set up a rule. Instead, when you get a pop-up, do you allow or not allow, it puts a rule in for you that's
Yes.
properly set up. If you do it manually, you may or may not put in a proper coded word rule, in order to block something going in or out of your system.
Yeah, unless you've spent some time learning a little bit about the firewall, this is your first time doing it. The best way is to catch it the way in the beginning, where it tries to access that port for the very first time.
Mhm.
It lets you configure it in a pop-up.
Yeah. And let's also remember there's one additional feature in Windows 11 and I believe also 10, which is the protected folders or the ransomware protection. And that also has a similar type of allow pop-up. And if you catch it the first time, you can allow something through. If you don't catch it the first time, you have to go hunt and peck. But anyway, Tom, that does perhaps relate a little bit to what you're dealing with.
Tom, did you get it to work?
Yes, I did. Thank you.
Okay,
Okay,
so we had,
to recap, he disabled Malware Bytes, which was giving him the problem of loading in advanced system care. So now he was able to load it in. What should he do next? Should he run Malware Bytes and let it tell him there's all kinds of problems so he could disable that?
so that he can allow whatever Malwarebytes finds.
Right.
If Malwarebytes pops up a window, I think there should be an option box to say allow. I haven't done this. I haven't added a new app in a while on that machine. But you can always go into that area where we said before and just allow the whole folder.
What will happen is Malwarebytes usually will just quarantine it, and then you go to quarantine and you can right click on it and say allow this.
Yeah, usually, yeah, that's a way of doing it too.
There's a couple of ways. But with quarantine, you have the advantage the most recent items are the ones that it just blocked.
Yeah.
Okay, should I run a scan right now?
You could,
That's up to
although
you.
you could, although
Sure.
you might be putting your presence in this meeting a little bit at risk.
Oh, he said it's on a different machine.
Oh, go ahead.
Go for it.
Go for it.
Go for it. Let's let it blow up in front of us.
See what you find. see what it finds.
What the heck?
Yeah. Yeah, what the heck? It ain't my machine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Harry, you said
I
you
just
bought a new
didn't-
machine? Harry Hauser?
Sorry?
You bought a new machine?
Oh, 2.5 years ago.
2.5 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was embarrassed to continue using 8.1, Windows 8.1.
I would be
Ooh.
embarrassed.
working perfectly.
Wow.
I believe
Very
there's
honest.
somebody else in this group that is still running Windows 8.0, or is it 8.1?
8.1.
8.1.
8.1.
I
Yep.
have
Yep.
an 8.1.
I actually have a Microsoft Surface Model 1 or 2 that still boots up in Windows 8 and works.
I have a retired disk sitting around with 8.1 on it, and it's always run.
Yeah, the trouble is it's not supported, so it's not secure
Yeah.
anymore.
Well,
No,
don't
that
worry
was the
about
reason
that.
why I said, you know what? It was fun. It was nice. It's time. And at that point, the whole world was using 10. I said, all right, let's join civilization. And you know,
Yeah, I have.
Yeah.
I left most of the settings as default settings.
I have.
Certain things related to email, and so I changed, but things that I didn't really come across all that often, so leave them as defaults.
Yeah, I have XP 7, 8.1, the 10s, the 11s. I got my second machine running on 24H2, and I got to get I got to engineer some time to get some of my other computers up to date on 24H2.
All right. So who has the next question?
I have a
I-
question. I have a question. My question is, if I have a legacy machine, an old machine running an older OS, but I want to update the antivirus database that's on there. That is, the program still works, but the database is expired. How do I get that from Microsoft?
You mean Windows Defender?
Right, the database itself, just the data files.
Actually, that is available through the catalog. The catalog should
Yes.
have it.
Right. How do you find that? Where do we find that?
It's the security intelligence something update.
Yeah. This is something I either don't know or forgot.
I get those when I haven't actually manually updated Windows Defender, and then I run Windows Update. It'll
Okay.
first give the Defender definitions, which is intelligence security update.
But if his computer is running anything prior to Windows 10, Microsoft's not gonna update your machine regardless.
Correct. You will only be able to use the last update for that version of Defender.
Oh, okay. All right. I
Yeah.
thought you could download new database for it, but I guess no.
The formats are changing.
Okay.
Yeah, likely you're going to have to go to a third party if you still can get one for that OS.
Yeah,
Got
if
it.
they have it.
Yeah, I recommend and use Avast free antivirus. It has a firewall, it protects your email, and everybody that receives an email from you will say that it was scanned with Avast antivirus.
Mhm.
It has a firewall. It has a web browser interface. So if you go to a known malware infected website or something that it's suspicious of, it'll warn you before let you go there. Does the same thing on Android phones. If you have an Android phone, I recommend Avast antivirus because it will scan everything that comes in from the Google Play App Store. If something slips into the App Store and is infected, and you install it or upgrade it, malware Avast antivirus on the phone will scan it before it lets it install.
Yeah, I have something similar, which is a phone antivirus, and Avast is a well-respected one. The one thing I was going to say to Sanford is that I was going to ask which Windows version is on this legacy machine.
7.
Yeah, the question is, do any of these, including Avast, still run on 7? Do
A
they
lot of
still
them do
install on
not.
7?
A lot of them do not. They after
Yeah.
so many years of it being unsupported, they just drop it because it's especially a free version. You're saying I got to keep people on staff and maintain this old piece of software for a diminishing number of people who are
Yeah.
using it for free. What's my return?
Even the paid versions usually don't go
Right.
very far back.
Right.
According to Copilot, Avast antivirus is compatible with Windows 7,
Hmm.
provided that your system has Service Pack 1 installed.
Did not think about that.
Avast continues to offer support for Windows 7 users, even though Microsoft no longer provides updates.
Okay.
Wow. Now, you have to make sure that your system, this is funny, make sure that your system meets the minimum requirements. And the minimum requirement is 1 gigabyte of RAM and 2 gigabytes of free space.
Yeah.
I took a photo yesterday and it was 4 gigabytes, 4 megabytes.
Okay.
Tom, I see Tom's got a thumbs up. What's the thumbs up? Is that a question?
It's a
Or he
statement.
likes Windows 7?
Well, no, it's nothing to do with that. I was being quiet because you guys were talking about a subject.
Yes.
The scan is complete. It came up with 9 suspicious items. They were all from the what was it? That Advanced System Care Program. So, as expected, what I'll do is I'll do an always ignore for those. And that's it.
That's it. That means
That's
your
it
system
until-
was nice and clean.
Yeah, that's it until the next upgrade.
Well, yeah, and it'd be the same thing, but,
Similar.
well, yeah.
Yeah, and then you can do the same procedure, and now you know how to do it.
Yes, thank you guys very much.
You ask and we deliver.
So,
That's why you pay us the big bucks.
yeah, I'm waiting for my PayPal deposit to clear before I pay you the bucks. But yeah, it's going to happen. Are people ready to hear about my latest upgrade?
Sure. Yes, go ahead.
I may wish to share what I have done. First of all, with my new internet service, I had a gateway that was from Comcast, and I noticed that it was doing WPA2. And I also haven't had in this PowerSpec PC just a Wi-Fi 5 capable card inside that came with the computer. So what I decided was I was ready to move up to a gateway that allows WPA3 and that does Wi-Fi 6. Not that I need the speed or the throughput, it's just there's better security and it's kind of nicer. And also, this gateway, you can disable WPS, whereas you couldn't in the old one. The transition is from the Comcast XB7 gateway to the XB8. I did not do the XB10 upgrade because that would limit my ability to do battery backup for the phone service. That one is capable of Wi-Fi 7. However, the XB8 is pretty much their current level. And it also, I believe, moves me from Docsis 3 dot something to Docsis 4. So it was a decent gateway.
Docsis
And
is cool.
Docsis is up to 4.0 now. On some gateways, on some modems. But anyway, in order to make full use of all these features, the Wi-Fi card pretty much needed an upgrade. And what I'm going to try to share here through my browser, I'm going to share my whole screen so that I can bring up my browser. And can everybody see the Asus PCE? Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
And this is what I got. I got it at the Micro Center. They have really great people who can advise on technical issues like this.
Yep.
It had to be slot compatible, which is PCIe 3 times 1. And
Yeah.
the cable that came in here was a little different from my old Bluetooth Connect cable. They're both 4 pins into a 9-pin USB, but now they're keyed, whereas they used to be unkeyed. So I needed to use the cable that came in the box. And you'll notice it's got antennas, and those are important for Wi-Fi 6 in order to get good reception. And here's what it can do. And it does tri-band, which is what 6E is capable of. It can do Bluetooth 5.2, though I haven't tested that. That's the interface, PCIe Express times 1. And here's all the data rates. And allegedly, I could do 2.4 gigabits per second if I had service that did that, which I don't, and I don't need to be doing that much. But it does do the AX, it does do 6 gigahertz band. And external antennas, WPA3 security. Now, WPA3 is a good upgrade. However, it isn't fully implemented in all operating systems. Linux, for example, knows how to do WPA3, but several of its interfaces don't know how to display that you are using or could select WPA3 instead of WPA2. I run into that problem with LMDE because it's Debian based, so it's a little behind. The Cinnamon
Oh.
interface has that problem. But Windows happily showed me, congratulations, you're using Wi-Fi 6. And congratulations, you're using WPA 3. That happened, but I needed the drivers. Remember, I'm replacing my networking card entirely, so I have no way to get onto the internet unless I have an operating system that already knows how to run this type of card. I can stop. I'll stop sharing. So what did I do? I can tell you what I did. I have Linux on the same machine, and I had recently run into Wi-Fi issues in Linux. So I had downloaded a bunch of drivers and firmware and put it into the correct place in Linux. Linux did recognize this card and was driving it properly. So now I could do some downloads. And I went out and I found the correct drivers for this card. And I downloaded the Windows EXEs, the setup. And then I went back into Windows and offline I ran it. And it came up even without a reboot. It came up. I had my Wi-Fi 6. Windows 11 congratulated me. And I was back online. So
Wow.
that's my upgrade.
I was going to think of another idea that I was required to do in the past.
Yes.
I bought a Wi-Fi adapter for Linux Mint from Amazon,
Yeah.
and the key was that you had to start the install for the drivers, and the computer needed to be able to get onto the internet to download the software.
Yeah.
And if your computer is just sitting on a desk or wherever, it doesn't talk to the internet before your Wi-Fi adapter actually gets installed, and you can't install it without getting to the network.
True.
And so they said in the documentation, just plug it in via Ethernet cable. So I moved it near my router and plugged in an Ethernet cable.
Yeah, well, I have this problem that this card also carries the Ethernet. It also carries the Ethernet. So I needed an operating system that really could run the card. And I was lucky enough that this could. Otherwise, I would have had to go to another computer or my Chromebook and do the download.
Here's a tip.
Mhm.
From Amazon for about $10. You can get a USB Ethernet adapter.
Yeah.
It's got a gigabit speed.
That's also a good option.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't want to. Well, on this computer, I could use up a USB port. It wouldn't matter.
That's just for general knowledge, just so that everybody knows.
So,
Yeah.
Drew, I don't think you finished. How did you get that card to work if you couldn't get
I
online?
moved it into the living room where my router is, and I
Uh-huh.
plugged an Ethernet cable in so that the hardware recognized the Ethernet, and I had internet access before I started the install.
Okay. So just by plugging it in, you were able to get the drivers to download.
Well,
to
I was
install.
running Linux Mint, so
Okay.
I booted into Mint, and as soon as you plug in the Ethernet cable, it recognized it and loaded. It talked to the router and got an IP address.
Yeah, Linux has something weird going on with the kernel. They're moving drivers outside of the kernel and into other areas of the operating system. So now it's firmware outside of the kernel. So directly from an install, if you've been keeping your firmware updates up to date, you'll not notice the difference. But with the more advanced Linux kernels, you may have to manually get the firmware and the drivers. That's what I had to do. And I've discussed this in a previous Linux SIG meeting. So we'll not go over that.
Good thing. And if you want more information, tune in next week to the Linux SIG and you can find out all you want to know.
Actually, tune in 2 weeks. And
Tune
in last month. Tune in last month. I think that was when I was discussing this matter in Linux.
Okay, next question, new direction. Pete, you were going to update us on something?
I don't remember.
Oh,
Well, that's one way to update.
how's that school computer system going?
It's going pretty good. Last time before last, not
What you
this week Monday, but the Monday before, we were having some internet problems with their system. But this Monday, the one that was this week, everything was okay. I was able to get in so their system admin plays around a lot out there. 2 weeks ago, I couldn't get into my email on the machine. This week, I could. So they changed some settings somewhere in there. So not having full control other than of the desktop itself that I'm using can create headaches. But the Windows up there is working okay.
Okay. Thanks, Pete. Anyone else want to report anything or any other questions? We could go into our topics that I sent out.
No, it seems that we're ready for that.
Yeah. We're going to jump right on into them. So, one of the first ones that how to schedule an email to send later. Does anyone here not know how to do this? Does anyone here know how to do this? Okay, this is something I didn't know. I did that. I just learned this like about a week ago, and it's like, duh, how stupid. So I'll pull up my Gmail client and show you guys how I do this. Just give me a second here.
And I presume other email clients would.
I presume so. I just know that this works in Gmail. So I will go to Compose and I'll make this big screen and share this. Okay, so here is my blanket compose an email. And, you know, you could put whoever you're going to go to, blah, blah, blah. And we have the place where you go and type in. But the important part is you go down to the bottom where it says send, and there's a down arrow right there. Click on that down arrow.
Where did it go?
And it gives you a pop-up that says schedule send. Oh, look. Oh, I got to put a recipient. Okay, so sorry, typo. I'll put it to myself. There we go. And now I'll do this again. Schedule send. And the dialog box. I'm assuming everyone can see this.
Yeah.
It says, you know, Central Daylight Time, tomorrow morning, blah, 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 tomorrow afternoon. Or you can pick a date and time. That's it.
How far will it let you go out year-wise?
Oh, quite a bit.
So if I want to schedule some emails after I know I'll be dead and gone, they'll go?
You know, that's you would assume that they would. However, I think the thing that's key here is your account has to still be active. So if you're dead and gone and someone closed down your Gmail account or whatever email account you're using, it won't send out. But if that account is still open and active, it should still go because you're basically doing this scheduling up on the web and not on your machine.
Yep.
So that was it. This is so easy. I was like, why is it I did not know this existed?
I'm in Thunderbird right now, and
Yes.
it has, when you're in email and you have a new message, you can choose send or send later.
Okay. So Thunderbird has it.
Yahoo has a schedule option in the menu, and you can schedule your message.
Wow.
Or if you want to be really fancy, you can write a shell script and have it run an SMTP from the command line and put that in the Windows scheduler.
Okay, but we're not being fancy. I'm just making some notes here.
So Sanford, how did you trip over that arrow and find it?
I don't remember where I saw this. It was, I don't remember if it was on TV or what. It was just someplace I just quickly saw it. And I was like, what? I did not know this existed.
As seen on TV.
Yeah, I don't remember where it was, whether it was in a podcast or what, but it just suddenly was somewhere and they just said, well, this is how you do it. You go down here and you do this. And I'm like, what? So, all right. So that was the first thing. I thought that would be very valuable to the group. The next thing is how to use your iPhone to scan documents. All right. Now, last month, we had a gentleman who was chiming in from Michigan.
Oh, Carl.
Yes, Carl. And Carl, bear with me a moment. Let me just put this documents. Carl was saying that he was using, what is, not Excel. Was it Excel he was using to organize like random notes and thoughts?
Oh,
I
yes.
don't think in Excel.
I don't remember what he said he was using. He was using some program to store like thought, like the distance to the sun or how long it took the time, astronomical notes or something
He
like
was,
that.
in fact, using some Excel notes to do that.
Yeah. And we were saying, well, you're really not using the right application for this, and you know, for what he was doing, because his database was getting huge and it was harder for him to manage it. So I did come across this one, which was how to use your iPhone, and I'm sure Android has a similar thing, to scan documents and maintain like a database, like make PDFs from documents. And you could put that into a database that's sortable by using the notes feature. So it's really simple, and I will bring up the dialog box here from the internet that walks you through it. And for those that have an iPhone, all you do is you open the Notes app, you create a new document, and then tap on the attachment button and tap Scan Documents, and then you put the document in front of your camera and take a picture of it. And it'll give you the option to save it as a PDF, and away you go. And then you could start accumulating these. I thought this might be of value for some people. It's a quick way to make PDF documents, and you can use your iPhone for this.
Yep. And if you happen to have, if you're a Microsoft storage user, you can load either on Android or iPhone the Microsoft app called Lens, Microsoft Lens.
Yes.
And that's a scanning app. And you can put a business card on the hood of your car and scan it, and it will only scan the card. It will not scan the car. And it'll put it, by default. You can choose, it'll default to your OneDrive folder. So that if you take a picture with your phone, your document is available on your Windows computer a few seconds later.
Right. Does anyone here, has anyone ever used their phone to create PDFs? Okay, well now we see, we at least got one person that's used their phone to make a PDF. because they
haven't
are a very valuable tool. They're easily used for this purpose. Oh, my phone, you can't even see it. There it is. So, good, valuable tool.
Now, will your phone convert a JPEG into a PDF? The
The
iPhone.
phone?
Will the phone do it? I know your computer can do it. Depending, certain apps can do that. I don't know about your phone.
Yeah,
I think it's a matter of, I don't know. I don't know the answer to that question, Pete. And Pete, aren't you on Android?
No, I'm on Apple.
You're on Apple?
I've got a.
I think we're going to have to look this one up and see.
Let's see. Let me see if I.
Okay, while he's looking into that one, we'll jump on to my next one that I quickly wanted to demonstrate or show. And that was Hoopla. For those of us that have the luxury of having a library card, which is probably most of us, but those that live in unincorporated or rural areas may not have that or don't pay taxes for it or whatever. If you have access to a library card, you have access to basically a lot of what they have in the library. And it's available at your fingertips without you ever leaving the house. And you can watch movies, you can read ebooks, you can get videos, all kinds of stuff that your library has, and that's by using this app, and I'll pull that up. It's called Hoopla. Welcome to Hoopla. It puts your library at your fingertips. So you download this app, and you can you put in your library card information, and basically it becomes your way of checking out stuff from your library. And the stuff resides on your device for the same amount of checkout time that your library will permit it to be done. So Hoopla is it. It's free. If you have a library card, it's even more free.
All right. I just posted in the chat
Yes.
Copilot's response to how do you convert a JPEG to PDF. And it said that you can use the built-in Photos app on the iPhone to convert a JPEG to a PDF. And the step-by-step instructions are in the chat.
Okay. Thank you. Pete, did you see that?
Yeah.
Okay.
I also just pulled it up on Google and it's the same. So I'm looking.
Thanks, Drew.
Yep. Thank Microsoft.
Thanks, Microsoft.
Although Gemini would give you a similar summary.
So I was questioning, I brought up this Hoopla, but I was wondering if anyone in the group has used this already.
In the past, I did. In the past.
I have not. I've never used it. I'm a very big user of my library, but I'm usually in a conventional sense. I go there and check stuff out and return it. Never thought about doing it this way. I do know that they have ebooks and other things available. I just don't utilize it, but I do utilize my library. I would encourage everybody here, if you have the ability to use your library, use it. It's well worth the money we spend on it. Okay, so now I have a list of topics that I've sent out. Feel free to take a look at that list. I've discussed a few things in the very beginning that I threw in. So let's pull up some more questions or topics you guys would like us to go over.
Since we're talking some iPhone stuff, I kind of like the one on the bottom of the list. Use your iPhone as a webcam.
Okay.
I'll second that.
Okay.
You second that? Good.
Okay, how to use your iPhone as a webcam. I never would have thought about doing that. Look at that. There looks like there's some special holder you can get. Continuity camera. Camo. Well, I guess for one thing, if you're doing it on Zoom, you just run the Zoom app. But I think what they're saying, oh, you would tie this into your Windows or Mac PC machine to use as a standalone webcam. So they're using Camo, C-A-M-O.
What I think these apps can do
A lightning
is,
cable. Yes.
what I think they can do is they can create a virtual webcam that uses your phone as a device, but it also involves pairing, Wi-Fi pairing.
Yeah, it does. Pairs a device. What do they call this? Camo.
See, I was looking through various apps for making a virtual webcam, and this was one of the apps that came up in my search. And it has its own way, its own things you can use it for. So it's not exactly the same as SplitCam or some of these other things.
Mm-hmm.
This one is using iTunes.
Oh, it still uses it prompted to start iTunes.
Or install any drivers.
Got it. I find it interesting because I was under the impression that iTunes was not being encouraged very much for usage anymore.
Well, how old is the article?
Yeah, good question.
23.
Oh, there you
Yeah,
go.
so in
So it's last
2023
year.
it was
So
still there.
iTunes is still there. I know. I'll say this, when I've been to the Apple Store and I bring up the subject of iTunes to them, you could see them shudder.
Well,
Yeah.
9 out of 10 people stream now.
Yes.
hmm
You know, everything is pay as you go now with software, everything. There's no such thing as passing a music collection on to your children
No,
because you're subscribing by the month, and as soon as you stop, it's gone.
it's gone. Yeah, no, and our kids don't want our stuff anyway, so. Uh, so it's iPhone. It's webcam.
Now, if you're going to use it as a webcam, how do you? Oh, you know what? For $10 or $15, you can get a tripod from Amazon that you put the phone on, and you can point it anywhere you want.
Well, yeah. But couldn't you buy an IP camera for your laptop for like $5 to $10?
Absolutely.
You go to like Five Below and you probably pick one up there.
Yeah, but it wouldn't have the resolution the iPhone would have, though, would it?
Oh, absolutely correct. Absolutely correct.
It all depends upon what you're using it for. If it's just for joining a meeting like this, you don't need an iPhone resolution.
No.
My webcam is $15.
Dennis, do you see a use for this?
Very possibly. I mean, I've got kind of a collection of older iPhones that I'm wondering if could be used for this. I mean, when you're a page back from where you are now, it talked about how you can leave it plugged in, so you wouldn't right down there. We recommend where it says battery, but it also says
Let me see. How do you?
it's further down. Yeah,
Let me go
the
further
tips.
down.
One that said tips, a little further down.
Well, if you have
Start tips.
phone attached with a cable plugged into a computer's USB port, it constantly provides the electricity the phone needs.
Yeah, great. And that would be good, because I know on a previous meeting a few months ago we were talking about it and we're saying, well, the iPhone battery is going to be dead and you'd have to buy a new one. But if you can leave it plugged in like this, that seems very workable to
It
me.
is an option.
Yeah.
Now you have to be careful with Androids that use the micro cables. I will tell you right now, most of the cables that are out there are charging only cables. They are not data charging cables, which you would need on an Android phone that still uses the mini Wi-Fi. I mean, mini connect USB connector. But on older iPhones, you're using the Lightning cable that has data and charging. And anything that's using C, I think, is both as well.
Or you can just get a separate 800 milliamp hour battery that you can just stick to the back of your phone
That's an option.
and charge directly with it.
That's an option.
You can buy a magnetic battery that will actually stick to the phone
That's what this is.
and charge it wirelessly.
Oh, wirelessly?
Yes.
Like this.
You have to have a phone that supports wireless charging.
Right. And
Oh.
older
There's also
phones may
you
not.
can buy cases, a phone case that has the extra battery built in, and has the proper adapter on the bottom, so that when you put your phone into the case, Pete is showing us one right here. When you put your phone in the case, you now have that external battery is part of your case. It's part of the phone now. Pete, is that what you got there?
Yeah. This guy.
Okay. 8,000 milliamp.
8,000 milliamp with the magnetic wireless charger ring, which goes on the back of the phone. Just like my desk stand, which charges it wirelessly too.
Dennis, how old are these phones? Older than version?
Older than
What?
version 1.
Well, I got some couple version 5s, I think. I use a version 6 plus. It used to be my wife's. She's got like a really new one herself. I got an SE from maybe 2 to 3 years ago.
Those are good phones, the SEs.
Yeah.
The 5s, pretty old.
Yeah.
Pretty old.
I don't think the 5 will get an update anymore, does that?
No, they haven't had even the 8 doesn't get it, and I don't think the 9 or 10.
Yeah. Well, I still use my 6. I mean, I'll record if I'm out somewhere taking pictures or video of something I'm trying to do in the yard, or some plant that I want to ask my wife that's growing at my brother's house, or I'll use it for telephone calls. No problem. I don't use it for email or anything, but I use it for phone calls, straight phone calls, and pictures mostly. Video and pictures.
Gets the
Weather.
job done.
I'll still get weather. I'll use it for weather when I'm in the house with Wi-Fi connection.
Anyone have experience with Apple CarPlay?
I've
Nope.
been in a car with people using it.
Yeah.
Um, seems to
My
work
phone
nice.
connects up to my car wireless Bluetooth wise,
Okay.
so that if I get a phone call in, I have hands-free phone service.
And so is that
Yeah.
CarPlay or is it just Bluetooth?
It sounds like straight Bluetooth.
That's
I think
Bluetooth.
Yeah, my wife has that. That's
CarPlay comes into
Bluetooth.
play,
But what's CarPlay?
when you've got an infotainment system that utilizes the maps and the other applications that are on your phone itself.
Yeah, your car needs to have a screen.
A screen. Needs to have a screen.
Real
Yeah, I have that on the Nissan Sentra, but not with Apple. I don't know if that's part of it. But with my Android phone, and if I use something like Waze, it's a 10-inch screen rather than just my phone,
Right.
rather than this size.
So Harry has Android Auto on in his car.
Right.
It's very similar. Apple CarPlay and or Android Auto. It's whichever the manufacturer
I don't know if
wants
it automatically includes both. I've never tried it with Apple.
It's up to the manufacturer. Some have them, some don't. I think some of the Chevy products will only do Android and they won't do Apple. They won't do Apple CarPlay.
It may have to do with licensing fees that manufacturers don't want to pay for both.
You got it. You got it.
Same thing with some of the European car manufacturers. They're going to go Android rather than iPhone.
iOS, right? Because of the royalties that have to be paid. Which is part of the interface that you have, like Harry has, and I have on one of my cars. It's you got that phone integration. Kind of works, depends upon, sometimes it works pretty good. Other times it's not so good, but it gets the job done. It brings up the maps. In your case, it brings up Waze. So if you're traveling, you get to see what's going on traffic. And if you got to divert, it gives you an option.
And it constantly asks if it sees or got reports of a cop. It asks, is he still there?
Right. Are they still there? That's kind of a neat thing too. That you could quickly report something going on at a location. I like that in Waze.
Yes, it's a nice feature.
It is a nice feature. At least it'll give you a heads up, police activity ahead. And next
Well,
thing you know,
I try to
half a mile ahead is, a
I
cop
try to
sitting
give back in the communal sense.
Right,
Yeah.
right. Very good. That's Waze. All right, next question from yes, Bert.
Oh, we were talking about scanning before, and I
Yes.
found on my iPhone an app which is M365. It's sort of a co-pilot app on the iPhone, and one of the functions in it is a scan. And I took it and scanned the list of things we were talking about tonight, and it made it a PDF.
Oh, it made a PDF off of it.
It straightened it and made a PDF.
Wow, that's good.
So that's a application M365.
M365.
It's a co-pilot app somehow.
Are you on an Apple?
Yeah, this is an iPhone. I'm on a 12.
Thanks, Bert.
Oh.
Okay, on my list, I had topics. Anyone want to bring up one of the topics?
The one that has the number 5 in front of it.
Oh, 5 managers for documents?
5 apps to automatically organize your Windows files?
Yeah.
Is that the one?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I took a look at that document, and the program that I've used in the past isn't on the list, but um, I don't know any. I've never heard of these names. I can't provide feedback on any of the five.
Okay, so the topic here is 5 apps to automatically organize your Windows files. Um, and I guess if you have a very busy schedule, automated Windows lists, why would you want to do this? Is this like I'm asking the question, is this something to use for organizing the files on your hard drive
Yeah.
or on your drive?
They're
I
on
should say?
a Windows system. Windows systems doesn't work without a drive. And there's a lot of people that do not do well organizing their file.
File juggler. I'm kind of lost here
It'll
on
organize the files it contains. That's weird.
But I'm just, I guess I don't understand why I would want to do this. Help me out here.
How many people have you ever heard that say they made a file but they can't find it?
All of us.
An
Pretty much all of
organizer
us.
might help.
Everyone who creates a file cannot find it someplace on their system. At some point in time, you get frustrated.
Maybe
That's
you
what
should-
the search window's for.
Exactly. There's ways of finding things that, where did it put it? Over the course of time, Microsoft has adopted new rules and new ways of doing this, finding files. At one point, you could find where it saved files based off a date, but they made that harder to do. So I guess this will kind of help, where you could, like the previous one, you could use to set up rules of where it's going to put stuff.
Has anybody ever used the program Everything?
Yep.
I have. It works pretty well.
Yeah.
Everything.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I brought
Would you
that
like
up
us
before.
to walk us? What does the everything do?
Everything indexes. You can select what drives you want it to scan or what folders you want it to scan, and then it will index all of your files for you, so that when you run the program, it will you type into the search box and the name of the file or any attributes or part of the name, and it will pop up where it is almost instantaneously.
Compared to the built-in Microsoft search, which many people have said Microsoft should buy out everything and use that as the search function in Windows.
But Microsoft only lets you search your hard drive and your OneDrive. I don't know if they would want you searching, your Google Drive and your other drives. But with everything, you can go into the options and tell it, like I have Drive G mapped to my Google Drive and Drive S mapped to another Google Drive, and P is my P Cloud Drive. I have all those in there, and so it indexes everything. And I was looking for a program installer earlier, and I just typed in the part of the name, and poof, there it was. Now, if you're looking for the ability to find not only the file, but text inside the files, like doc files and PDFs. Agent Ransack is a good program, free program to look at.
Agent Ransack?
Mm-hmm.
Do you have it that you could show it to us?
Agent Ransack. Yes, I think I do.
Just share your screen.
All right, so where is the Zoom window? Let me hide the floating controls, minimize that. And this is Agent Ransack. And it's Agent Ransack Lite, which is the free version. And this program doesn't pre-index all of your files like a paid version of a product would do. But what you can do is you can tell it where you want it to look. So I have all of these places on my computer that I've searched before. So if I go into my pCloud drive, for example, and I'm looking for documents that contain the text Huey, and then tell it to search, and it should search my entire hard drive, and eventually it'll find my documents folder, and I'm just hoping that there's a document in there with the name Huey inside.
So it's searching within documents too?
Yes.
Okay.
And then you can say that you want it to search with a certain size criteria, modified after a certain date criteria, or before a certain date, so that let me stop this and go into my pause or stop this guy. Let me go specifically to the location where the documents are. pCloud, and then go into documents. And then there's nothing in there. We're going to go into here and say select folder, and now start the search.
Oh, I saw.
And it should find well, let's try another word containing the text Drew. Boom. There's files that have the name Drew in them. It found in the document CFCS, which is the Central Florida Computer Society, email and masking ODT file, has my email address in it. Bookmarks in Chrome, it found the word Andrew. Bookmarks from Brave, it found the Andrew. It even found the name somewhere inside this JavaScript file. But this program will allow you to do wildcard searches, Boolean searches, or regular expressions. You can put in dates that you wanted it created by, after, or modified, last accessed. And it will also, if you tell it, if you're a Thunderbird user like I am, it supports scanning your Thunderbird mail folders, so that if you point it at your profile folder, you can find email that has a certain name in it or a certain word in it. So this is a very good free searching program.
So Drew, it'll also look for file names, just like everything does.
Yes, it will. Okay. The difference between is this is scan as you go, so it's looking through the folders for the first time every time, whereas everything maintains a pre-indexed database.
Okay.
Can you show us everything?
Sure. where's my, there we go. Search. So I have, I use DN grep. I'll show you everything here. DN grep is a program that can also, it's free, that can do searching of files and words inside of files. And I have it set to search app data roaming Thunderbird profiles and search for the word Oklahoma. And let's see if it finds it. I don't know if it will. But this can search, yeah, there it is. It found zip files that have the word Oklahoma in them. But let's get to everything, because that's really the product that shines. That's how fast the program runs. And then I typed in, I have under tools, under options, and then under folders, this is the index tab. And under folders, you can list, I've got the tell it to search the D drive, the G drive, the P drive, the S drive, and the Y drive. So it's searching through all of this, and it's indexing it in advance. And it will rescan every day at 3 a.m., or you can change this to whatever you want, so that it always has the current list of files. Now, this will not scan inside files. It only finds files by name. Under the help menu, you can look at the search syntax, help index, and it will tell you how to do an and, an or, a not, wildcards. Macros are very good to do. If you type in zip colon, it will list only zip files. If you type in doc or docx colon, it will only find those files. If you go into functions, it has all kinds of things like dupe. It will go through your drive and find all duplicate file names, so that if you have disk cleanup to do, and you may have 2 video files that are 2 gigabytes each, or you've downloaded an ISO file 3 times and stored them in 3 different places, this will find them.
The thing I really like when I use it is the wildcard feature. Like if part of the name and you use, put in the wildcards, that it can begin with anything or it can end with anything, but here's the middle part of it. It'll find that. I think that's really neat.
Yep. And then over here, I'm telling it to search for everything. You can tell it to limit the search to audio files, compressed files, documents, exes, pictures, videos. So if I select videos, it'll only show video files. If you select doc files, it'll only show documents. But it's going to find anything that fast.
Yeah, it's fast, super fast.
So anyway, that's everything.
And that's free?
Yes, it is.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Drew.
Yep.
Next topic.
How about the one that starts with the number 7?
How about the one that starts with number 7? Boy, sounds a little cryptic to me. I see a 4. I see a 5. I see an 8.
Near the top.
7 batch files.
I don't see anything that starts with the number 7.
It's 7.
Oh, 7 useful batch files.
Yeah, I didn't. It took me a bit. A couple of useful batch files you can create to automate tasks on Windows 11. Okay.
Why not just use the Windows Task Manager?
I don't know. I don't even know why I would want to create a batch file anymore. Um, so
I
batch
don't
file
know. I don't.
contains
There are
one or more
people that I know
commands.
that don't know how to open a command prompt.
I don't know how to create a batch file. Well, you can do a plain text editor.
Well, you can create it in Notepad,
Right.
but you have to know what you're doing.
Run as administrator. Okay, so we're telling us to do that. A batch file that'll automatically clear your. Oh, well, this would be. Okay, clear your recycle bin. I guess they're trying to give you an exercise here of what you can do.
You know,
And then you
this
use.
says it was published in 24, but it looks like 1990.
Yeah, right. This is old stuff. I guess this is just telling us why we could still use batch files.
I mean, in
Oh,
Windows today, Microsoft recommends that you use PowerShell anyway.
right.
It's
That's the same as the command prompt that bash files originally started in.
You can
Okay.
probably ask Copilot how to create a PowerShell script, clearing temporary files or emptying the recycle. I mean, emptying the recycle bin is very easy to do just with the file manager. I don't know why you need a batch file.
Drew, I'm with you on this. It was,
Put the
it was
icon
there.
on the top of the.
Now, Pete might have a reason to do an automated batch file.
Like what?
Or I don't know. See, even Pete can't come up with something. Okay, so let's move on from this one. This is not a great topic, but it was there. So, uh,
It has one useful thing: creating a system restore point. I
okay.
create system restore points all the time. Before I do anything to my computer, I create a restore point.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to go into the menu, and then you have to go into the create restore point menu and wait for it to start. Click create the report. If you had a batch file to do it, it might be easier.
Yeah, that's true. That would be
And you can put the
beneficial.
batch files on your desktop and execute them right from there.
Mhm.
You don't have to go through a series of screens and clicks and so on and so forth. You double click the one icon, it does the job for you.
Yeah.
Go on.
Well, Drew did find a one point there that would really work well. That would be creating restore points, which is a little bit involved, or can be. Okay, so we jump on to the next one. Let's pick out another topic.
How about that stop spam calls? And then I'll tell you my new technique. Let's see what they say.
Okay. How to stop spam calls for good.
Don't turn on your phone.
Yeah, that's
Get rid of
that's
your
the only.
phone.
That's the number one.
Don't have a phone.
That's the number
Throw your
one.
phone out.
I get a half a dozen spam calls a week.
Yep.
Well, turn off the phone and don't turn it on. That's the number one trick.
Well, I use my Samsung phone has a voice assistant, and you can have it answer the phone for you. And it will say to the other person, "Why are you calling? Please, I'm converting your voice into text." And it's all the phone doing it, not you. And if it's not a real person, nothing is going to come up on the screen.
Right. And you
So I just
cannot
don't answer the
always.
calls.
All right, so one of the things they say is, of course, we all know about the National Do Not Call Registry. If you haven't done that, you may want to get your name on that list. It's a good idea to go and call that number and put your name back on that list again if you haven't done it, or go to donotcall.gov.
So far, that seems to do little to nothing, according to other experts in cybersecurity.
It's a place to start.
Yeah, I agree with Tim. I think it's useless to do those.
Yeah, I mean, even the threat of telling people they're gonna, some spammer they're gonna call and you're gonna, oh, I'm gonna turn you over to the government, but they could care less. What else do they have? Okay, so you can, there's tools here. Mr. Number is available in the App Store. AT&T Call Protect.
Unless it's an 815 number, for me, unless it's an 815 or an 808, or it's or the person is recognized by my phone book, I may give them a text back saying, "Who are you?" if I don't recognize it, and that's it. And if it shows up as my phone, the Apple shows up if it's a registered charity sending things.
When it becomes a problem when you use your phone for a business purpose and you anticipate getting calls from people you don't know. Then you're stuck answering.
808. That's why 808, which is all Hawaii, and 815, which was my old area code.
Yeah, in your case, Pete, that could work, but what about 888 or 800s or somebody else calling you?
I will answer the 808s. I will answer who's on my phone. Somebody comes in that I've connected with. I will add them to the phone.
Yeah. No, my wife does the one that you just.
What was that, Dennis?
My wife does the one that you just showed. She sets it so her phone will only ring, her cell phone, if it's a known in her contacts caller. But she won't miss a call because if they're not in there, it'll just go to voicemail. So you don't lose the call, you'll get a message. But I'll have to tell you,
you hope to get a message.
Yeah, you hope you get a message.
You hope that they would leave a message.
But I still maintain a landline, and I used to get a lot more spam calls. But I did something that helped me. I don't know if you remember this, but maybe a year or 2 years ago, we had someone at one of our meetings, and they talked about how they recorded, the three tones, like you got a wrong number. Do you remember that meeting?
No.
Maybe Tim remembers it. I don't know. But they say how you record the three tones, do, like you got a wrong number. I answer the phone. If I don't know the number on my landline, I'll answer it because I'm not sure who it might be. I now answer it in a foreign language. I say salut, which is French for hello. And then if it's somebody asking for me, in other words, I'm kind of prompting them to talk first. By me pretending I don't talk English, they're going to say something. And then I'll probably either recognize who they are or I don't. And if they say something that I don't like or don't like, or I can realize, hey, it's not a call that I want, I don't hang up on them. Then I say quoi, which is also French. which means what? So I'll use a few foreign words, and I think it eliminates them from calling me back. They realize they're calling somebody they'll never be able to talk to in English, and I've gotten less calls, I swear. Take it for what it's worth.
For what it's worth. Okay. So Dennis's technique is to answer his calls in a foreign language.
Right.
And I think this article is just poor. It was my Reader's Digest. I should have known. Okay,
All I can say with my answering is I'll let it ring. If I don't recognize the number and they hang up and don't leave a message, I'll let it go for maybe 2 days. If they don't call back, then I'll go and block the number.
Everyone's got their techniques. I guess it depends on what you're doing at the time. Like when Bob was looking for a place to go move to, he had to take in most of the calls that was coming to him, right?
I don't have that much trouble with unwanted calls.
Uh-huh.
I have Normal Robo through Comcast, and yeah, sure, there'll be spam calls coming in all the time, but with caller ID, I recognize which ones are
And caller
the
ID
real
does
ones.
help quite a bit when it works properly.
But like I said, Comcast does a pretty good job of filtering.
Well, another
Yes, it
thing
does.
that you have to be careful about is like emails and other things. There are spoofers of phone calls.
Yep.
And they use phony baloney numbers that in most instances are unused phone numbers. There's a way of finding out about those. So you could be blocking a lot of those numbers, but they switch the numbers. These people trying to get a hold of you. I get a lot of calls from places all over Indiana where I live, and I never heard of anybody from any of those places in my life. I didn't even know if some of them even existed. But in any case, the whole thing amounts to trying to fight email spam. You can only do so many blockings, and then it becomes ineffective. It's not limitless.
True. Blocking only works just so far. It could block just that number, but not any of the other
That's
parts
right.
of the trunk or the
And
source.
some of the services limit how many you can have on your block list.
Right. I did get a unsolicited text message last week, and I'll read it to everybody. We all know these kind of spams. Hey, Dad, I just got into a bad car accident. I don't have my phone. Please call me right away at blah, 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 blah. The thing is, I just got off the phone talking to my daughter, and I know where my son's at. So it's just like, oh, yeah, my kids would send me a text message like this for sure. Not.
I'm surprised you didn't say, I need, please wire me some money.
That probably would have been the next one if I would have called this number.
Well,
We did search the 2 phone numbers that were associated with this spam message, and none of them came up legit.
well, some parents and grandparents, etc., and that they set up a family code word, and if you don't know what the code word is, they ignore you. Period.
That's right.
Just
Star
ends
Trek.
right there.
On to King Rook 3. That was one of the famous episodes.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
King's 3.
That may
Yeah.
not be the
No, wasn't
correct-
it King?
It was a chess move. It was a chess move.
It was it King or was it no Queen? Whatever. But yeah, he moved one piece to another location in the air. Yeah.
Interesting.
Um,
My preference is caller ID About a year ago, here in New York, I experimented for good or for bad and switched to fiber optic, and everything essentially is an app. It's through the cable company, but it's not cable service. 2 days in, my wife says, you know, this service is amazing. We don't get a lot of phone calls. Well, because it doesn't have caller ID in the fiber optic service. I didn't know I was losing that, but
That's interesting.
in Florida, I have Comcast, and even though it's fiber optic, it does include caller ID. In New York and in the entire East Coast, Northeast, we have Optimum, and that's not part of their fiber optic service.
I have spam filtering on my home phone line through the phone company. What it does is when somebody calls me, the computer answers or the phone company answers and says, this customer is using our filter. Please dial the number 4 on your keypad, or number 2 on your keypad, or number 7 on your keypad. And if it's a computer dialing, they're not going to be able to punch the number that the computer tells them to on the phone, and then it just doesn't ring my house.
I know of
Interesting.
one person that also used something in the way of a service just like that.
Okay, shall we go on to a new topic?
Well, before you go to a new topic, I can add another twist to this. I found that it goes even farther than the electronics. I got a letter in the mail from some type of life insurance company that said my policy was all set and ready to go, and it turned out that it was some kind of a scam thing where, you know, my policy was there, and what can I say? I didn't even know what the charges were and where it came from and all that kind of crap. But I thought maybe my financial advisor had set up something for me, so I had to check online to see if the company was actually out there. And evidently, the insurance company was a scam. But I got it in the mail, for crying out loud.
Not email, but regular mail, post
Regular
office.
paper mail.
Well, paper mail is that's a pretty, if that was a scam,
Expensive.
that's something you could bring to the postmaster.
That's right. The postmaster inspector.
Right. Okay, before we go on to, we probably have time for 1 or 2 more topics, but I did want to give a quick commercial for the club and remind everybody that our YouTube videos are available on on our channel. In your email links, you would have gotten a link to our YouTube channel, so feel free to go and watch at least one video from beginning to end. You could scroll through, I don't care how much of it you watch, but at least try to watch one video and give us a thumbs up somewhere along the line so that improves our ratings on the web. The more views we get, the more numbers go up, the higher our rankings go, and we'll start pulling in more people. The other thing is the Society had sent out a poster last month and encouraged all its members to print out this poster, which is like an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper, print it out and take it to your local library or community center and ask them to post this on their community center board. You could also take it to your church or other civic centers that have community service boards. Your libraries will put them up there. It doesn't cost you anything. They'll probably say, well, we got to review it, and then they'll post it up there. So that will bring in our numbers. So please do that. I have posted it out close to a dozen locations. I have not heard of anybody else taking it to their libraries. So please do so if you can. With that, I'd like to ask, is there any more questions or topics that we could go over?
Awful quiet.
Awful quiet. Everyone's reading the email, the topics I sent out.
How about,
Well,
I
I
think
don't
it-
even understand what that one about PowerToys, what it's even saying. If you want to tell me what it is saying, and I'll tell you whether I want to see it or not.
PowerToys update adds new media transcoding capabilities to advanced paste tools. Good
I don't even know what
question.
that means.
What the heck is that saying?
Well, what it means, transcoding means that it's going to convert a .movie file to a .mp4 file, or it
Okay.
will it'll change it to a different format.
Okay.
So does that mean you could take a video file and extract a WAV file from it?
Without trying it out, I can't tell you.
Yeah.
I'll try that tomorrow. I have PowerToys installed.
Okay. This is a real short article. It enables you to change formats such as MP3s, W-Waves. So you can go from one format to another. Don't know. This might not have been a good article to pick. PowerToys is a very good product.
They make reference to it being version 0.89.
Yeah.
I believe, I'm not sure, but I believe the latest is 0.90.
Okay, so that's an old article then.
No, I wasn't criticizing, just
Oh, okay.
It means the feature is probably still present.
Are there many PowerToy users in this group?
I have them.
I use it regular. I use a few of the tools, not
few.
all of them.
Same here. I think for my case, I've used like image resizer, where I need to send somebody some lower res versions of pictures that I took to make it easier to email. Instead of sending them 20 megabyte files, send them a 1 megabyte. PowerToys works real good at quickly resizing your pictures.
And if you're in File Explorer and you put your highlight a JPEG file, and then you press Control spacebar, it'll quickly pop up an image of a box of the image file without having to open an app. And then Alt spacebar pops up the run box right in the middle of the screen, so you can type in a command.
Okay. Yeah, there's a lot of nice features in PowerToys. It's getting there. It's almost time for mainstream.
I'm anxiously awaiting one of the new features that's coming. I don't know how many people on the group here know what Microsoft Winget is, but we can do a separate meeting topic on what Winget is. But it's basically a program in Windows that will tell you what the version numbers of all your programs are and allow you to upgrade all your software or install new software from over a database of over 5,000 apps. And the reason I'm linking it to PowerToys is in Windows, it's a command line interface. And Microsoft is putting a graphical user interface in PowerToys for Winget.
that's WinGAP,
Winget.
Winget. Okay.
Yeah, I think you showed us this at Westside, did you not?
Possibly.
I think you
Good.
did. You quickly showed us that one at the West Side meeting, which was last week, which would be posted on the YouTube channel, Pete. If not, Drew may talk. We may persuade Drew to talk about this again next month.
Yeah, we could do that.
Okay.
I have subscribed to the CCS YouTube, so I get notifications when the new ones come up.
Good thing. That's a good thing. It's to get notifications.
Stanford,
I don't know.
question for you. Is there a way to be able to look at the listing of recordings and figure out what is on some recordings without going through a whole recording? You know, is there some kind of a table of contents somewhere?
Well, usually they're in the descriptor. If it's a meeting, I have to put some information here. First thing, in the descriptor section, when I am posting the videos, I put in whatever information is made available to me that I could post in there. In the cases of the meetings that I run, I generally am taking notes alongside on a piece of paper, and I put some of those topics that we discuss into the notes list. So you would find it in there, Tom. If it's a meeting that's ran by Tim or
Ed,
drawing a blank from
Ed.
the Northwest chapter.
Ed,
If we, thank you,
Ed, Keating.
Ed. Thank you, Ed Keating. Thank you. Mental block there. I don't always get a listing of topics that are discussed, but I do pluck those from the emails that are sent out, and that is what I populate the descriptor area with. That's the best I can do, because I don't sit and watch all the videos.
Oh, I understand that. And
Okay.
the
Now-
reason I'm asking is that, two West Side meetings ago, I wasn't there. I wasn't in the meeting. And I did go back and watch the meeting, so no problem. But, you know, I would like to be able to go back and rejoin some of the meetings that even if I've been there, I could look at again. But I'd like to be able to find a way to figure out what meetings are worth reviewing again.
That's the best I can offer to you
Yeah.
in terms of that information. In addition, I've started to make the practice of copying the closed captioning files when they're made available to me and posting those along with the files, the video that's posted. The closed captioning file does have time indexes built into it. So this may help you find stuff. I don't know if that's a searchable thing, but you'll find this starting to show up in the last couple of months. I'll say for sure this year, most of the videos should have closed captioning files. That may help.
Thank you.
Okay.
So I just pulled up the West Suburban one from, I think yesterday or the day before.
Yeah, it would have just been posted.
Yeah, and you hit the show transcript, and it puts it up in the notes on the side with hours, but that's about all it does.
Okay. But there should be a descriptor section too. A description of what the video is.
Yeah,
Okay.
and you may have to hit more on that to get it to fully show or show
Right.
more. But yeah, you can scroll down through the transcript. But you don't have the chapter markers on the timeline.
No, the timeline is, I don't have, I guess Zoom does not make chapter markers, and I thought YouTube would, but it doesn't.
Okay.
YouTube, yeah. So, if they're,
The generalization of topics as we go through them.
right,
Yeah.
right. That's the best I could tell you on how I handle the videos, or taking notes and put that in there. Also, a lot of this information I put into the metadata, so it helps it become searchable from people externally trying to find YouTube information on a subject. Our video may pop up when they're doing a search for something like on Firewall. I'll put that in there as a metadata word. So someone may show up and may be able to find our video because they were looking for something on firewalls. But I hope that helps.
It does. Thank you.
Okay. Any last questions for the group? If not, I will stop the recording.
I will say aloha.
Recording stopped.
And Tim, you want to give us a commercial? What do we got coming up, Tim?
Well, what do you mean? What do we got coming up?